Hey there, badass. How about a break from those endless emails, client calls, and screen time? Yep, shut down that laptop, set your notifications on silent, and come join us at the Ladies Kickin Ass networking and community event, Sip, Sass, and Kickin Ass. It's November 16th, which is a Thursday, from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Forum Lounge in Chandler, Arizona. Come mingle face to face with a bunch of amazing boss babes in service based businesses from around the valley. You can make genuine connections over cocktails. Yes, please sign me up. All the information for this fun event is in the show notes, along with a link for you to grab your free, yeah, I said free, ticket to come to this event. We cannot wait to see your beautiful faces at the event. Welcome to the Ladies Kickin Ass podcast, where we raise our voices and honor the badass achievements of women in the service industry. Get ready for empowering conversations, inspiring stories, and a whole lot of ass-kicking energy. Join us as we redefine what it means to be bold, fearless, and unapologetically YOU, babe. This is your platform, your community, and your source of inspiration. So buckle up, get ready to rock and roll, and let's show this world just how much we can accomplish. Welcome to the Ladies Kickin Ass podcast. Welcome back to Ladies Kickin Ass. I'm so excited today to be able to introduce to you my special guest, Amy Traugh. She is here with us today to talk about all things about being a mompreneur. That is what she has embraced. That is who she is. She walks, talks, behaves in this manner. And it's a beautiful saying. I love the word mompreneur because so many times it's like, be the entrepreneur or be the mom. And oftentimes many people think I got to put my dreams on the back burner because I have kids and I don't have time to do this. And I am here and on a mission with this podcast, and I believe Amy is too, is to dispel that and say, this is bullshit. You need to be doing the things that you want to be doing and showing your kids that it can be done while you're being a badass mom at the same time. So Amy, thank you so much for being with us today on Ladies Kickin Ass. Go ahead and give us your background and why you ended up as a mompreneur yourself.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, first of all, for the opportunity to share my story and a lot of the lessons learned along the way, because it's easy to look at someone and go, wow, she's doing all the things. She's really crushing it. Well, it's been a long road. It's been a really long journey that's been full of twists and turns. So I always like to start out by saying, I'm no different than you. I had a dream on my heart and I went after it. So my career actually began back when I graduated college in 2006. I thought I had my life figured out. I was always the overachiever, box checker, going through life like, okay, you graduate, go to college, you get your degree, you get married, you get the house, you have the car, you have the kids. On paper, I was living our societal norm of success. But what I didn't realize, and it took a pandemic for me to realize, is that I was just on autopilot. I wasn't really fulfilled anymore. I was just going through the motions. So the year 2020 happened and it changed my life, just like it changed so many people's lives. And I had worked in a career in outpatient physical therapy. I didn't hate it, but things have changed a lot over the years. And I didn't realize how unaligned it had become because, again, I was on autopilot. So suddenly the world starts shutting down. My kids are a preschooler and a kindergartner at the time. And I'm going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Like, there's no daycare. There's no school. Who's going to homeschool these kids? Like, what are we going to do? Well, as moms, that's one of our superpowers. We figure it out. We get resourceful and we figure it out no matter what happens. So that's what we did. And my employer, luckily, as weird as this is, working in healthcare, was asking for volunteers to take a furlough. So they needed to cut staff by 50%. So I'm like, hey, I got to do it. I have to do it because I don't know what else to do. My husband was a healthcare worker as well. He was frontline. So it's like, we have no other choice. One of us has to stay home and really navigate this with our family. And, my kids are always going to be the number one priority in my life, no matter what. So I took the furlough. We survived. It was a little messy, homeschooling. I was never meant to be a preschool or kindergarten teacher. My kids reaffirm that to me on a daily basis. I am not the crafty Pinterest mom. I hate glitter. It makes me want to burn my house down. I love glitter for my brand. I do not love glitter with my children. Doesn't work well. So learned a lot about myself during that period of time. But in the process, once we survived the homeschooling piece, I finally, for the first time in years, had the time to sit and reflect. And I still remember vividly sitting in the little folding chair, watching my kids play in our driveway and going, oh my gosh, I'm missing this. I'm working this career that's giving me this awesome paycheck that I've worked so hard to get these credentials. I'm missing this. And no matter how much money I make, I can't buy back my time with my kids right now. And it was at that moment that I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing? So, you have that epiphany moment, but then it's like, okay, what now? Like, we need money. So how are we going to make this work? Well, I had always had it on my heart to start a residential home organizing company. When my kids were little, I really learned how much my environment impacted my surroundings. The more stuff the kids accumulated, the more anxious I felt. So I started going through decluttering our house, and I loved it. I would help friends get their houses decluttered for free. I'd help others get organized. To me, it just brought me so much joy. And I'm like, you know what? I have the time. Why not start this company? Right now is the perfect time to do it. We're in a pandemic. Everybody's stuck at home. Everybody's sick and tired of staring at all this crap that's around them. And suddenly we actually have the time to start going through it because we're all stuck at home. So I started the business and it grew. And I was like, oh shit, like, what am I doing? This is crazy. This is growing. And, I learned a lot. There were, Harvard Business School courses you could take for free at the time, which was amazing. And I'm a nerd. I love to learn. So I'm taking all the courses. I'm actually implementing. That's another thing we forget to do. We forget to actually implement what we're learning. So this business is growing. And I knew as part of growing a business, networking was always really important. Everybody's always saying, you need to network, you need to network. So I'm like, okay, I'll go to these virtual chamber meetings. Oh my gosh, they were horrible. They were horrible. I was told time and time again, hey, you really have to compartmentalize being a mom and being a business owner. You can't intersect the two. And I'm like, but have you ever gotten the call that your kid's school is calling you and they're sick and you need to drop everything you're doing right now and go get them? I was questioned about my little mommy business. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, you help people clean? No, I'm helping people regain control of their environments. There's science behind this. So I got very frustrated. I'm like, you know what? This is not my table to sit at. So I built my own. I'm like, I cannot be the only one that feels this way. So what did I do? I was like, okay, well, let's go on social media and just start a random Facebook group and see if I can connect with a couple women in my area that I know are running their businesses. So I'm like, okay, let's do this. And it grew and it continued to grow. And then I found myself having others come to me and say, well, how are you doing this? And I'm like, well, here's what I'm doing and it's working, try it for yourself. And they were seeing success. They were getting more revenue. They were seeing results. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of cool. I'm like, this is what I've done my entire career. In outpatient physical therapy, your patient comes in, you develop a goal. So they have their goal after they get their knee replaced. I just want to be able to walk a mile again. Okay, we know what that goal is. And then I'm just empowering them with the steps they need to do to get to that result. We break it up into little chunks. And that's what I loved about my career. It wasn't all the bureaucracy of healthcare. It was empowering and educating others. And that's exactly what I was doing. And what I realized, and this came with a whole set of guilt, was in building that first business, I found my passion. I found what I truly loved doing, which was pouring into others. But I'll tell you what, it was really, really hard to walk away from a business that was generating significant revenue, that was replacing my revenue from my 9 to 5 job. And it was terrifying. But again, it all goes back to community. I continued to foster that community, and it grew and it grew and it grew. But it wasn't an overnight process. It's taken time to nurture those relationships. But once you really seek to serve, not to sell, to really help others out, link arms with fellow entrepreneurs, that's where we start to make the change. And together we can change the narrative. So that's what our membership community does. We are here to change the narrative that you do not have to choose. You do not have to choose between being an awesome, kick-ass mom and a thriving business owner. You can have both.
Yes. Oh, shout it louder. It is one of those, we are both extremely passionate about this. Amy and I have had a conversation before. I was on her podcast too, and it is such a passion of ours. And I think that when you are in community with women that are really passionate about what they're doing and how they want to serve others, the conversation and the air just feels different. Totally different. If you are, I love what you said when you said, I built my own table. And I think more women need to hear you say that, because oftentimes I feel in women that I talk to, they feel stifled or stuck because they can't find the right table to sit at. And I would highly encourage you that if you find that, build your own. That is where Ladies Kickin Ass started. That is where your group started with mompreneurs. And it is truly one of those things that even if you don't like the feeling of something and they're all on a mission, take what you learned there and go start something else. Because I guarantee you, if you feel like you need to find something else, there's someone just like you that's looking for the same shit you're going to put together. And they're going to say, thank you so much for building this for me. Is that what you found with your community?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Yes, because your people are out there. You
Mm-hmm.
sometimes have to be the one to go first, to be the trailblazer, to put yourself out there and be like, no, like I can't find my people. Where are you? And
Yep.
just start putting yourself out there. And here's the thing, when you see other people doing it, that's proof that you can do it too. I never
Yes.
want another woman to think, oh my gosh, because Amy's running a group for moms, I can't run a group for moms. No, the more of us that start communities like this, we link arms together. Think about the change we can create when more and more of us are providing these welcoming spaces. And here's the thing, I'm not going to be for everyone. My mission, my vision, my values are not going to align with everyone. And that's okay. That's the beautiful part of this world. There's so much abundance out there that if you're not finding where you fit in, make your own. And by putting yourself out there, you're going to draw those people in. You will find your people, because even though this journey can feel so lonely, you are not alone. And you need people that understand what you're going through. Because I will tell you what, being an entrepreneur is hard, especially when you come from a family that has been very traditionally educated. I still get questioned. Why would you, start your own business? You're not using that degree. You spent a lot of money on your
Yeah.
education. You're not using it. You threw all that time away. People question it. I mean, even my mom will come at me and she's like, "Are you sure you're okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're doing just fine. My kids are fed. They have clothes. I've taken my husband down to only having to work 20 hours a week. Yeah, mom, we're doing okay. We're doing just fine." But again, we're stuck in such societal beliefs that, okay, just because you picked a job or a career path when you're 18 years old, that you have to stick with it. No, we have control. Make the choice to make a change. It may not be comfortable at first. It's going to be messy. You're going to figure it out as you go. But we've got one life to live. Let's start living it because the future is not guaranteed.
No. And we have to continue having this conversation that just because you decided to do something doesn't mean that's what you're meant to do forever. It is okay for you to change your damn mind. You could have a
Yeah.
business. This is something that I had to do last year too. I shut down one of my service companies. I have a septic business, I have a junk removal company, and I have 5 kids after I married my husband. And I really, really have a passion of growing this ladies kicking ass community. I'm like, something has to give. Something somewhere has to give. And so people would say I ended up shutting down the junk removal company because it was the lesser of everything that was making an impact in my life. And people were like, why would you do that? Like, you could just hire someone else, or you could just do this. And I'm like, it was still going to be a task that I had to do. And so walking away from something that is working, it was working fine. I mean, it was over a 6-figure business and I just shut it down. I shut it down because I needed time and space to be able to create the things that I wanted to. And although I'd been in this industry for a long time, I made a decision to change because I wanted to serve in a different way. And that is okay for you to do that. And you don't owe an explanation to one goddamn person for doing that. None. When
Right.
they question me for stuff like that, I'm like, I just made my family more of a priority, and no one gives a shit about that. And that's what I think. Like forever, I was like trying to explain it to people why I did it, and then I was like, nope, I'm just gonna start saying because my kids are growing up and I want to be there more often. I'm picking my family, and then people are like, okay, and they don't really know what to say because you can't really like argue against that,
Right.
especially other moms. But one thing I realized in that process is that people that are doing cool shit and are building things and doing awesome stuff are never going to throw shade at you. So stay in and spend your time with those people that aren't going to constantly question. I know sometimes it's our family and there's nothing we can do about that, but have one little like kitschy thing like that. Like, I just want to spend more time with my kids.
Yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah. And it really
I
shuts them
find
up
that
quick.
so interesting. Yeah. Like you just can't. And something else that you said too that I really want to talk about, Amy, is that you said, think outside the box, think outside the lines. People drew that box a really long time ago. And I think it is the people that are so interesting now that pretend like there isn't a damn box. There isn't one. And don't try to be everything to everybody because you will not be able to authentically show up as yourself. If people don't like cuss words, they're never going to be part of Ladies Kickin' Ass because I talk like a trucker. And I was raised that way and I ain't changing, like it's so fun. There's like this country song and it's like I learned to cuss from my mama or something in there. And my daughter always starts laughing. She's like, that's you. And I'm like, it is so very true. And that's just who I am. But also like our friend that we have in common, Joanne, when I went to a mastermind, her and I are both sitting in there and somebody said fuck first. Somebody said it, and then we kind of looked at each other like, I found my person. Because sometimes you
Yes.
walk into a room when you've got a big personality and you kind of shrink. So get in the rooms where you don't feel like you have to shrink. Get in those rooms where you feel comfortable. And it might not be the first one that you go to either. Learn something from that one and keep looking. Don't give up. Is that how did you decide? Maybe you can give us some of your experience of going into rooms where maybe you didn't feel like you fit, and that's why you designed the one that you created. Can you give us a little background on that and maybe how you felt about that?
Yeah. I mean, frankly, it pissed me off. Like, I still remember sitting in a seminar and this woman is up there preaching about how you have to choose. And I'm literally like squirming in my seat. I'm like, okay, take a deep breath, take a deep breath. Like, this is her presentation. This is not yours. But afterwards, that right there was fuel for me because I'm like, you know what? No, no. I use that as the catalyst to really grow, to put myself out there. Because when you shift the focus from yourself to, you know what, who am I serving? Who needs to hear the message that I have to share? Because if I don't share it, she's going to continue to play small. She's going to continue to seek external validation and be told by her family that no, you have to stay in this position because, you feel guilty about giving up your degree. Well, I call bullshit. Like, no, we have to be willing to do the uncomfortable things to live the life that we desire. We don't need approval from anyone else. And looking back, I realized growing up, I was always seeking that external validation. I was always looking for that atta girl. I was always looking for the awards, the accolades. I was that high performer in school. But what I realized is now I get to be me. I get to show up as me, and that draws my people in. And the cool thing is, this is my business. I get to make the rules. If I don't like the rules, I can change the rules. And I think that's especially as female business owners where we get tripped up because it's inherent that we want to be accepted. We want to be accepted into the tribe. That is primal. That is our primal brain. But the thing is, you have to question that and go, okay, but if I'm not being accepted by the people around me, I need to go be the leader. I need to go be the one to create that community because there are people's lives that I am going to impact by getting a little bit uncomfortable, by stepping out of my comfort zone. Full disclosure, I'm an introvert. Like, I am the world's biggest introvert. If you would have ever told me I would have had a podcast, I would have presented a major event where I'm in front of 100 people speaking, like, who am I? Like, this is crazy. But the more I lean into that discomfort, the more I push myself outside of my comfort zone, the more fun I have, the more I'm finally starting to live the life that I desire. And, what we don't remember a lot is that our time and our energy, those are our two most valuable assets. We really have to protect them. So really getting clear as to what do you want your business to look like? Because you get to choose. You get to choose what it looks like.
Yes. Oh, so good. So good. What would you say to the point that maybe women are considering starting their own community, starting their own group, and they feel intimidated to do that? Maybe a little imposter syndrome of like, well, is anybody going to come? Is anybody going to show up? Are people going to think that, I'm full of shit and I don't know what I'm talking about? An event that we both attended this past weekend, there was somebody was talking in there and they said that maybe you didn't have someone tell you that you weren't worthy of what it is that you're working towards. Maybe you have never had anyone tell you that you were. And I think, man, that just hit me like a ton of bricks because I definitely had people that were like, who the hell do you think you are for a really long time? Because a woman in my industry was a very odd thing. And that kind of stuck in my head. But it was really the other side of that when she said that I was like, oh my God, that is exactly what I've struggled with there is like seeking the outside validation of someone telling you that you're worthy. So when people are creating a community and they think, I just don't know if I'm ready. I just don't know if I have what it takes. What kind of encouragement would you give to them to just be like, that's bullshit, go full speed ahead?
Yeah. Honestly, it comes down to being super clear on why. Why are you doing this? What is your reason for doing this? What is the impact that you want to make? And giving yourself permission to be a beginner, to play around with it, to really just embrace it because it's not easy. There are going to be people that misunderstand you, that judge you. That's just a fact. But are you willing to be misunderstood by a few to be accepted by many? And that's something that one of our mutual mentors, Lindsay Schwartz, shared at that same event. And that really struck me because, yeah, are you willing to be misunderstood by a few? Are you going to let that hold you back from that huge impact that you have to make? And for me, it really involves doing the inner work, really detaching from the outcome, being so crystal clear as to, okay, this is my why, and going for it. I don't need the permission from anyone else other than me. I will be misunderstood by some, and that's okay. That's just
Yeah.
the reality of it.
Yeah. You really have to be comfortable with that. There is somebody, Lindsay is the one that reminded me of this too, because for years, I've been talking to her about really building up a community for Ladies Kickin Ass. And she's like, if you don't do it, someone else is going to. And you're going to be
Right.
like, dang it, like that was my idea. Like, how many people say, like, well, I thought of that first. I invented that first. I'm like, yeah, I know. I invented a TV in fifth grade that rewind so I could watch the basketball game again. Damn it. Why didn't I do something? Like, really, when you have got an idea and it's a passion and it just keeps tugging at your heartstrings, that didn't get put in your heart by chance. Like, for me, I truly feel like that is a divine power source, God, whatever it is that you want to talk about, the universe that is saying someone needs you. And so for me, one of the biggest things is if I keep feeling so passionate about starting this community or doing these events or having this conversation with other women like we do on these podcasts, someone needs to hear it. And for me, even if it's just having a conversation with you, sometimes podcasting can be almost a very selfish thing. Joanne and I have talked about this a lot because we get one-on-one attention and conversation with beautiful women that are doing badass things, and we get to share it with other people, and it's so incredibly cool. So really, like, there is somebody out there that needs to hear and needs to be mentored and needs to be led by you. Don't let that person down.
Yeah, exactly. Because no one else has done it your way. No one else has all of the lived experiences that you do. And yeah, that imposter syndrome is so real. And I think it stops so many of us cold in our tracks because we're seeking that permission from someone else. But you don't need permission from anyone except for yourself. And so many of us stay playing small because we have these big ideas, but we push them to the side. When the kids are older, then I'll do this. When I retire, then I'll do that. We're just when-thenning our way through life and we're not living. So if you have a dream on your heart, you need to take action. And that's scary, but just take one step at a time and then the next and then the next. I mean, none of our communities were built overnight. I mean, Lindsay's first Powerhouse event, I think she had 75 people, she said. And it's
Yeah.
continued to grow to over what, 600 now? I mean, it's a thriving community. But we all started at ground zero. And just think about it. If you can impact the life of one other person, would that be worth it? Would that be getting a little, like, worth getting a little uncomfortable? For me, it is.
Yeah.
What's your thought?
I think absolutely. I remember the early days of my podcast, and I remember Lindsay telling me that like the whole first year she had her podcast, she never even like checked her numbers. Like she didn't know. She didn't even like see how many listeners she had. And I was like, what? Like from day one of like putting out the first podcast, I was like, I got one. And I remember when it like popped up on the thing and it said that you had 100 people plays, like people had listened to it 100 times. Like that was so big. And then it hit 1,000. And then like the numbers just start going up faster and faster and faster that you see that you're picking up traction on stuff. And even on episodes, it was like 13 people listened to this episode. And you're like, but how did that impact the 13 people there? My friend Heather Lackey, she is a social media connoisseur. She's so good at what she does. But she's also on the podcast. But she shared in the podcast episode that she looks at it this way, like social media. People get so stuck on the likes and stuck on the followers and stuck on all of these vanity numbers. It doesn't mean shit if it's not impacting you, like people buy them and all this stuff. She's like, think about it this way. You post something and you're feeling cute. So you make a selfie and you post it with a cute quote or something on there, right? She's like, if five people say hit that, made a decision and made a judgment and said, I like this today. Or 5 people left a comment. She's like, in my head, I explain it to people like this. That is beautiful. 5 people stopped, took notice of you, stood in line and said, you look nice today. Or said, hey, even if it's a high five, like a heart, just like think about it. If you've got like the Kim Kardashian type of thing where there's like 5 million likes on every single thing, just like that takes on a whole new level of personality and a whole new strength suit because now you've got 5 million people lined up over here that you can't let down. She's like, so be careful what you wish for on some of these things, and really, really, really love that small audience because that's where the intimacy is. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so incredibly true. And so many people undermine, or they look and they're like, no, I only got 1,000 followers or 500 followers. How engaged is your community? How are you impacting those 500 people that have made the decision to make you a part of their life? And I think we underestimate that so much in today's world because it's so much about, the Mr. Beasts of the world or whatever on YouTube that have like 1 billion followers. It's not even realistic. Why are you comparing yourself to someone like that? That's not you.
Yeah.
And do you really want to be that person? So I think it's really cool when you're cultivating this community to really think about those things. Like, how do I want to show up? Do I want it to be massive? Or do I want to have this intimate group of people? And it can be just if you're trying to do this and there needs to be some monetization with your group, like how do you want to do that? Because you can monetize a very, very small group of people and still be incredibly successful. Is that what
Yeah.
kind of how you have ran your business too? Because there's not, I don't have like shit tons of followers. You've got a couple thousand followers on Instagram, but we're both running very profitable, very good businesses off of this. And that is testament here for you guys listening or watching this. It can be done and it can be hella fulfilling at the same time.
Exactly. We get so caught up in the numbers and the metrics and the striving that we forget to look around at what we have. And yeah, you look at my following, I don't have a huge following, but I have a very, very engaged following. And to me, that's more important than anything. But Instagram's just the top of the funnel for me. I want to nurture those relationships on a list that I own. I could care less how many followers I have. I want them to be on a list that I own so I can see actually who I'm impacting, who's opening. I can dive into the nitty gritty email analytics, the not so glamorous part of running a business that we forget to look at the data at hand. And honestly, most of my clients that are most successful have very small but very highly engaged followings. So we need to, again, stop comparing ourselves to everyone else because like you said, you can buy followers. There's all sorts of icky tactics. How many of them are bots that are following some of these bigger accounts? Like you actually look at their engagement rates and they're very, very low. And
Yeah.
we're always moving the goalposts. I want to go back to what you said with the podcast. When you first start a podcast, it's like, oh my gosh, I hit the 100 downloads, like the confetti's flying. You're celebrating that. But then it gets to the point where you're just like so used to it. And now you're like, okay, well, when's the next milestone? When's the next one? It's like, okay, 5,000 and then 10,000. We forget to really embrace like what we've accomplished and celebrate that big. Because if you
Yeah.
took, 10,000 downloads, that's 10,000 people that heard your message. And like you said, even if 100 people heard your message, that makes an impact. That makes such an impact on the world.
Yes. 100 people is a lot of freaking people.
It really is. It really is. But we get so caught up in the striving that we forget. It's all
It's the
mindset.
little milestones all along the way. Like, how many times do you hear interviews with very wealthy or very famous people? And the top isn't exactly what they thought it was going to be. But they all talk a lot about their journey on the way up there. The story, the goodness, the celebrations is sometimes coming out of the shit. It's sometimes just like, I finished this week and I got half of my stuff done. Like it's really celebrating the little things every single day and really acknowledging the fails of things too. Like, what's your highlight of the day? Like, for me, journaling has been a godsend. It has helped me sleep at night. It has been like this brain dump first thing in the morning because I wake up with like 9 million ideas because I'm scatterbrained like that. So I journal first thing in the morning, and at nighttime before I go chill with my family, I come in, I set up my computer, even if I have 2 minutes, brain dump what needs to come out of my head. So I don't lay in bed and think about everything that's going on. But it's really for me at the end of the day, what was really great today? And what is something that really sucked today? What I fail at today? Because I think when you start embracing more of it's okay, I fail every day, instead of waiting for like a bomb to drop and you're going to fail, like the big everlasting F word, you embrace failure in a different way, and it doesn't scare you to build something, and it doesn't scare you to grow, and it doesn't scare you to be vulnerable and stick your neck out there and do the video even though you look like shit and haven't put your makeup on yet. Like, just do the thing, because the more you fail, the less fearful it is.
Yeah, exactly. And the more you link arms with failure, honestly, failure has taught me far more in my life than every single success combined. But you think about
Oh
it, it
yeah.
goes back to even when we were kids. You don't just pop up one day and start walking. You fall down a whole bunch of times before you learn to run. Why are we viewing failure as a bad thing? I think failure is only to be feared once you stop. If you just lay down and stop trying, that's really the only way to fail. But every time you fail, if you can use that as data to teach you, oh, okay, this didn't go like I thought it would, but what can I learn from it? How can I adjust, adapt, and move forward even better? Use it as your friend, and then failure becomes your ally instead of your enemy.
Yes. And go tying it all back together with the whole mompreneur thing. This is a beautiful thing. Stop being so damn concerned that your kids see you fail at something. Let them see you
Right.
fail at something and acknowledge
Yes.
their fails. Acknowledge them. You know what? That wasn't a good choice. And I'm going to tell you why. But what did we learn from this? Not being afraid to say I failed at something. Because if there has been one paralyzing thing for me, it was always like, I got the attention when I was getting the accolades. So it was like, I never want anyone to know I need help, or that I failed at something, or I don't know how to do something. Like, I will drive myself crazy trying to figure shit out because I'm so scared of being viewed as a failure. Failure is something that happens, it is not a person. And really putting that on our kids, because in traditional school setting, that's not the case. You fail, it's like
Right.
you're a bad student, you're a bad boy, you're a bad girl, you didn't do the right thing. That's not always the case. You didn't learn how to do it that way, but you've learned something from that. So I think really having the conversation too with our kids as we are learning and failing and growing and doing things, that we give them that slack and we give them that autonomy to be able to do the same thing, so they don't end up growing up to be adults that have to figure this shit out when they're 40.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree because I've been there. I've been there too. And I want to give my kids permission to fail. I'm like, I don't care at the end of the day what grade you get on the test, as long as you tried your hardest. It is the effort
Yep.
that you're putting in. And if you fail, what do you learn from it? What can you learn from this? Because we've just been conditioned to fear failure over the years. You're absolutely right. Our school system sets our kids up to be afraid to fail. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, I always look back and I go, on the tests that I missed questions, those are the ones I remember. I remember those failures. That taught me so much rather than the ones that I just guessed on and, happened to get right. But I remember the ones that I didn't get right. And I'm trying to really instill that in my kids too, that it's okay to fail. Failing is not a determinant of like your worth as a person, as a human, because at the end of the day, like there's 20,000 different ways to achieve the same outcome. Why are we so hell bent on there's only this one way? And if you're not a good test taker, then you're a failure. No, like
Yeah.
that's taking our kids down. Like my job as a mom is to empower them and build them up that you can do whatever you damn well please. You just
Yeah.
have to be willing to accept yourself and be willing to fail and learn from it.
Yes. Oh, I think it's one of the most beautiful things we could give to our kids.
Yeah, it truly is. It's a
I really
life
do.
lesson.
Yes, because if there's something that has stifled me the most and other women that I've talked to, it has always been fear of rejection, fear of failure,
Yeah.
fear of what they think, fear of this. Like, and it really does stem from all of that stuff that we learn as kids. So I think it's a really, really cool conversation to be able to have with them. I know, like, when my stepkids come over to the house too, if I'm like, what was good today? Lunch. I'm like, what'd you fail at today? And they kind of look at me like, what'd you say to me?
Hmm. Yeah.
I want them to start thinking about this stuff. Nothing, like even as small children, they're very defensive about what they have failed at because they don't want to be, that's a bad word. And I'm like, we just have to really change the narrative of what this looks like to our kids as moms and to the women that are in our communities. Like, fail at some more shit. So then you know what
Yeah.
works and what doesn't. I think that's such a cool conversation. I'm so thankful that we had this today because I think it really is one of those paralyzing things for so many people. We talk about self-care, we talk about this and this and this. A lot of people don't like to talk about failure. They don't like to talk about fear. And it's those big F words that no one wants to talk about, but they're huge elephants in the room of everybody that's trying to achieve great things. So, thank you so much for being vulnerable enough to have that conversation with me today.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Because if my struggle, my reality can help change the life of someone else to realize, you know what? I'm just like her. I'm just like you. Guess what? It's all worth it. We're all facing struggles behind the scenes. Life is not the highlight reel that we see on Instagram, but learn from those failures, embrace those failures, and that's going to skyrocket you to success even faster.
Yes. Oh, it's so good. So good. So, if someone wants to connect with you, Amy, where is the best place to go? Where do you like to hang out? What do you got?
Sure. So my favorite place is over on Instagram at Amy Traugh. Pop in, say hello. Nothing fills my heart with more joy than to have a listener of the podcast be like, hey, that really hit home. Like to me, that's just like, oh, it warms my heart. And it's affirmation that, you know what, I am impacting lives. So I love that. So come say hello there. You can find me over on my podcast, the Motivated Mompreneur Podcast. We're streaming on all the platforms and my website, themomsonamission.com.
Excellent. So good. So good. So, in closing, I love to always ask my guests a version of the same question because I find it very, very interesting how so many women relate to this podcast. And I have women that I just interviewed a really awesome lady that also owns a septic business from New Hampshire this morning. That was super fun. I interview coaches. I interview people that work in like mortuary stuff. I've been talking to a lady that I think would be an excellent podcast. Like, they're just so cool what women are doing out there. And everyone kind of has a little different definition of what it means in their life to be a lady that's kicking ass. So, Amy, what does that really mean to you? How do you resonate with the term ladies kicking ass?
It's writing a life on my terms because I am the author of my life. I want to look back and read the best adventure book ever.
Yes. It's so beautiful. And how cool to leave that as your motto for the things that you're doing for your kids. It's like the ultimate mompreneur right there. So, such a beautiful ending to such a beautiful conversation. Amy, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Tanya.
Thanks for being part of the Ladies Kickin' Ass community. Cheers to all you badass women out there. Keep rocking your power, igniting your fire, and making waves in the service industry. If you loved today's episode, please do me a quick favor. Take a screenshot, post it, and tag us at Ladies Kickin' Ass. Be sure to include the link to your favorite episode. Your support in spreading the word means the world to us as we aim to empower even more women. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more kick-ass episodes. And don't forget, a 5-star review is the ultimate high five. Connect with us on social media. All the links are in the show notes. Thank you for being part of our tribe. Now go kick some serious ass, lady. Hey there, ladies. Want to supercharge your personal growth journey with insights from the best in the business? I've got a treat for you. I have been raving throughout many of these podcasts about this incredible self development app called Growth Day. Imagine learning from industry powerhouses like Mel Robbins, Ed Milet, my girl Lori Harder, Brendan Burchard, Mel Abraham, Lisa Bilyeu. Oh my gosh, there's so many more. And guess what? Every Wednesday, they teach live that you can watch them and interact with them through this app. It's so incredibly cool. Beyond their wisdom and live coaching sessions, there is another incredible feature that I'm obsessed with, though, the journal section. I use it every single day, whether it's either to brain dump, reflect on my feelings, remember things for my business, or dive deep with their brilliant journal prompts. I'm never at a loss for words when I sit down to journal. How freaking amazing is that? And because you're part of our podcast family, there's a special treat awaiting you. Click the link in the show notes below to check it all out. Embark on an incredible journey with Growth Day. Remember, every new day is an opportunity to grow, reflect, and evolve. And that is what we do as ladies who are kicking ass.